Hey guys, Saffiyah is finally coming to us in SoC Global. She is one of those characters that is really hyped after. So in this video, I'll be looking at some of the core skills in her kit and talking about what I think makes her tick in the current meta. So without further ado, let's jump into her skills. First off, looking at her trait and basic skill, which is on the right, Saffiyah actually has a pretty good trait by itself because her trait allows her to automatically inflict the Hangman's Mark. Now this is nothing really new. There are actually some other non-legendary characters that can also automatically inflict the Hangman's Mark, particularly of course those from the Area faction. Do note though that once Saffiyah's trait reaches 3 stars, she can actually inflict 2 enemies with the Hangman's Mark automatically every turn, which is really great in terms of utility. And if you get her to 5 star on her trait, the range of the automatic application increases from 4 tiles to 6 tiles. Her trait also allows her to deal bonus damage to enemies inflicted by Hangman's Mark, and this actually helps her to finish off damaged or injured enemy units. The thing about Saffiyah is that she's not one of those damage dealers that outright deals big numbers just by hitting a skill or attacking an enemy unit. She really functions sort of like an assassin sort of character where she softens up the enemy by lowering their defense and inflicting vulnerable, and then she actually applies damage via a variety of different sources of damage. One of which of course is a trait, and I'll cover the rest as we go through. Her default skill is actually pretty good. It does 130% potency, and while that is in itself isn't the largest of damage potency, the great thing about it is that it does increase the crit before attacking, and if that skill finishes off an enemy target, it refunds the energy cost. So she can actually just go around using the skill and one-shotting enemies that are softened up or hurt by your other characters. One of her rank 1 passive, which is on the top left, actually helps in this regard as well. Her rank 1 passive allows her to finish off an enemy unit if her attack lands the enemy unit in the dying state. Now for those not aware, the dying state is a state where your HP is less than 30%. And what this means is that if the enemy's health drops to 30% or below after getting hit by Saffiyah, the enemy will get an additional piercing damage that does 30% of their health. Essentially this kills them off. So what Saffiyah needs to do is really just bring the enemy unit down to the dying state, and this passive will ensure it finishes them off. Now take note though that this isn't foolproof. There is such a thing as resistance to percentage health damage, and many bosses in the game do actually have it. So don't expect to just bring Saffiyah to a dying boss in the weapon trials, for example, and expect her to one-shot the boss. Doesn't work that way. But in many cases where you're fighting regular units, this helps her to go the extra mile in finishing off the enemy. Now rank 3, she does have 2 skills that I find very interesting. The more valuable one I think is the one that's called the Shadowless Blade. In my opinion, this is a must pick up and the more valuable of the 2. Shadowless Blade is 1 energy and gives her a buff called Shadowless Blade. Essentially this gives her a dodge, and when she dodges the next attack, she deals an AoE physical damage on the direction where the enemy is from. And this not only does some pretty nice damage in an AoE form, but also inflicts vulnerable to debuff, which is really good. If that's not enough, every time Shadowless Blade is triggered, Saffiyah also recovers 2 energy. And this is really important because her rank 7 skill, which is the best skill that she has, requires 4 energy. So any way that you can recover energy with Saffiyah would be much appreciated. The other rank 3 skill though is pretty interesting because it is pretty unique to Saffiyah. I haven't seen another character that has something similar. The other rank 3 skill, the Tactic Adjustment, allows you to choose 1 unit that is 3 tiles away or up to 3 tiles away, and allows Saffiyah to change her type from a Seeker to that unit's type. Now take note, this allows you to then deal or receive the plus minus 30% damage. So essentially, say for example the stage has a lot of defenders in it, which would normally give Saffiyah a pretty difficult time, you can use this skill to change Saffiyah into a breaker if there's a nearby breaker to do so, and this allows you to give type advantage versus the defenders. If you are low on Castelia though, I would recommend to skip this. The Shadowless Blade is by far a better skill to pick, whereas Tactic Adjustment is really more niche. There are of course some situations where it will come in pretty handy, but outside of those, you'll be looking at a dead weight in your limited skill slot for Saffiyah. Saffiyah has a pretty good reaction skill as well in the form of Blade Chase. This allows her to perform an assisting attack once per turn to any enemy unit inflicted by the Hangman's Mark that is nearby, and this deals 50% physical damage. At rank 9, she gets a new basic attack that is really good, because anytime she uses this new basic attack, she buffs the nearest ally with speed 3 and attack 1. Currently in the game, there's not that many sources of speed up buffs, and granting speed up to a nearby ally can really potentially turn the tide of battle. Take note that this can also buff the minion that she summons from her rank 7 skill, which I'll cover next. In fact, her rank 5, 7 and 9 skill has really good synergy, and I think this is one of the reasons why she performs really well in battle. Her rank 7 skill is by far her best skill, and this is one of the reasons why she's really good. Her rank 7 skill allows her to summon one Hangman's Agent behind the target. First things first, this has a range of up to 3 tiles and actually has a height range of up to 8 tiles. This means that even if the enemy unit is far above a mountain or far down below the cliff, you can still use this skill as long as they are up to 3 tiles away. Not only that, this skill also inflicts the Hangman's Mark, Physical Defense 2 and Magical Defense 2 down on the enemy target as well, so essentially it really softens up the target and usually leads to pretty good damage from the Hangman Agent that she summons. Now, I did mention pretty good synergy between her rank 5, 7 and 9, so when you summon the Hangman's Agent and the Hangman's Agent attacks performing a back attack because it's summoned behind the target, usually it leads to a trigger of Ravia's rank 5 reaction, so you add another 50% physical damage on top of this, and then after that, when Saffiyah attacks that target, which is already debuffed by defense 2 down, you get the additional benefit of buffing your Hangman's Agent with speed 3 and attack 1 to boot. Her rank 7 skill also does not have a cooldown, but it does have the heavy cost of 4 energy, so as long as you have a way to constantly replenish Saffiyah's energy, you can spam this pretty liberally in battle. And this is one of the main reasons why you really want to pick Shadowless Blade for her rank 3, because Shadowless Blade is a way for Saffiyah to regain 2 energy. Really, I think the strength of Saffiyah here is the fact that a lot of her core skills synergize really well with one another. Which brings me close to the end. So looking at Saffiyah's core skills, I think her strength is really in her utility. Hangman's Mark, Physical and Magical Defense 2 and Vulnerable 2 are very good debuffs, especially if you've tried the recently released level 70 weapon trials. If you did, you'll notice that having these debuffs make a world of difference due to the stat difference between the boss being level 70 and you being capped at level 60. If you do still have trouble tackling the high level weapon and turret trials, then Saffiyah will definitely help you out a lot, and you will get much bigger numbers across your entire party once she lands her debuffs, which is also pretty easy to land. On top of this, her basic attack also buffs speed 3 and attack 1, which can have a very good application both in PvE and PvP. The thing you have to realize though is, if you attack with Saffiyah, don't expect one big number of damage from her. Instead, expect that her attack will deal Hangman's Mark, inflict debuffs, and deal damage through a variety of different means, such as, for example, following up from her Hangman's Agent through her reaction and her rank 1 passive landing the finishing blow if you manage to bring the enemy unit to the dying state. Her tactic adjustment rank 3 skill is pretty unique to her and can potentially be explored if you're a fan of PvP. Finally, she really appreciates energy. That's because the more you can spam her rank 7 skill, which is really her greatest skill, the quicker you can end battle. So ways to increase her energy, such as giving her the cornucopia dagger, although that's not a free weapon in the game, or having other characters that can provide her battery would be pretty good for Saffiyah. For myself, I will definitely be pulling. That's because I really lack very good debuffers in my roster. I think I mentioned this in some of my weapon trial level 70 runs as well, and I had to resort in using disaster bottles to get me through. So having a staple debuffer in the form of Saffiyah that also can help finish off enemy units is really good. And the fact that she is sort of like a mini summoner, she does summon the Hangman agent, I think is good for my roster because I did skip a Kambe as well. What do you guys think about Saffiyah? So put your thoughts in the comment section. Until then, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next SoC Convalera video. Bye!